Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of CR Exposed. On today's episode we are looking at the Mind Flayer, which was selected by my balanced CR members here on YouTube. If you'd also like to select monsters for me to review, then come on over, join the membership here on YouTube, or become a patron on Patreon, and you can also select the monsters that I review, as well as a whole bunch of other perks. With that, let's go ahead and take a look at the Mind Flayer here. We are looking at a CR7 monster, just like last week's episode of the Tree Blight. And we are going to throw that into the tool here, which will include a bunch of random changes that are required for the tool to work correctly. From there, we are going to start working from the top down. Now, our Mind Flayer, as we already know, has a lot of actions and stuff to deal with, so it's going to take a little while. So strap in and let's dig into the brain of this creature. From that, we're going to add in the AC, and we have ourselves a medium aberration with 99 hit points. Now the hit points, we're going to go ahead and throw in the 18 D8 hit dice, and then start adjusting the stats. So we start with our strength of 11, 12 dex, 12 constitution, 19 intelligence, 17 wisdom, and 17 charisma. With a 17 charisma, no wonder why people are trying to romance the Mind Flayer from Baldur's Gate. Now that we have our stats in place here, we're going to go ahead and start looking at the features of our Mind Flayer. We see that we have a whole bunch of skills, which, checking the CR here, these don't matter. We also have resistance to psychic damage, and since it's only one resistance, we don't worry about adding that in. And it just saves a whole bunch of issues later down the road. And by issues later down the road, I mean basically a bloat. We end up having more hit points than the monster actually has, and then we have the issues of, well, if this damage isn't being used, then the monster is taking regular damage. I could go into this whole deal with it, but believe me, or do the research on your own if you'd like to spend so much time like I have over the last 5 years of doing this stuff, and understand that when a monster is immune to magical or non-magical weapons, and then all of a sudden your level 5 party has all magic weapons, suddenly the monster doesn't have those resistances anymore, and it kind of goes downhill fast. It's great to see that resistances, immunities are pretty much gone from 5th edition's new version here, because it was causing a whole bunch of issues before then. We see that our Mind Flayer has a breastplate for gear, which is great for looting purposes. Senses and languages, again, don't matter for our CR purposes. Next, we are going to look at magic resistance, and just like resistances of regular stuff, we're going to go ahead and put this in. We have our +2 effective AC bonus, but the issue here is, if the Mind Flayer isn't being affected by stuff that requires a difficulty check to save on, then this bloats the Mind Flayer as well in the armor class area, making it more defensible than it actually is. Another problem we see here with how they work the game out. Let's move on past this. We now have a +2 effective bonus. We're going to move past that and go down into the actions here, and then we will deal with the spellcasting. Now, we have ourselves one item here that could be worthwhile, and that is Dominate Monster. We have Detect Thoughts and Plane Shift. Plane Shift is great for getting out of there when problems arise. So if your players are giving the Mind Flayer a beatdown, then yes, they're going to plane shift out of existence. Dominate Monster is the only really important spell here, which is going to be a level 8 enchantment, and we can potentially add that in if it calls for it. Otherwise, it may not be worthwhile. But let's go on and take a look at our tentacles. The tentacles have a attack bonus of 7, and then we have Extract Brain with a DC of 15 and a Mind Blast of DC 15. As we see here in the difficulty column, our DC is a 15, which is equivalent to an attack bonus of 6. The Mind Flayer has an attack bonus of 7, but since we have a bunch of different items, 2 of which are using the 15, the one is only using the 7, in theory we could technically switch this to a DC of 15 and then just use that, because the 7, while it is a little higher, In theory, we'll probably be using these more often, although the Mind Blast is a 5 out of 6 use here, so we'll only see that once in 3 rounds of combat. Anything beyond 3 rounds of combat, we might see it again, and that should fall in line provided your dice are rolling good as a GM. The tentacle attack is likely going to be the major item here that you're doing more often, so we will just go ahead and add in the 7. From there, we will go ahead and add in the tentacle damage, which is going to be 22 points of damage coming from 4d8 plus 4. To get the plus 4 bonus, it's psychic damage from the tentacles. Switching that to intelligence, we now have a proper 22. Although I did think that was incorrect at first, I'm also very tired doing this late at night. Probably what you're not seeing are all the yawns I'm cutting out of this video because it's been a long day. We also have a grappled condition and a stunned condition. The stunned condition here is similar to a level 1 spell. At the moment, I don't recall which one it is. If you've seen some of my past videos, you would then know which one it is. A level 1 spell that gives the stunned condition here is something similar to Alarm. It's one of these spells, I don't recall off the top of my head. I'm just looking for the effective DPR number of an 11, because the other one of Bane would be 14 for multiple targets. So Alarm is 1 target technically, and that would be 11 effective hit points. We come back over here, add the 11 in here, and we get 27 effective hit points for stunning a creature. Now we also have the grappled condition, which we can use the constrict monster feature, because constrict for giant constrictors has the ability to grapple and restrain, so either or will work here. So we're getting that +1 effective bonus from that, and then we will go ahead and add in the extra hit points for the stunned condition. Now that is technically for only 1 attack, or until the grapple ends, but let's take a look at Extract Brains while we're here. Con save 15, DC 15, 1 creature grappled. Failure, the creature takes 55 piercing damage. Success, half as much. Or success if the damage reduces the target to 0 hit points and Mind Flayer kills it and devours its brain. Fun stuff. Okay, so from that, we will go ahead and throw these little bits in as well. So this is just something we'll want to do every round. First attack will go into attack number 1 here. We have the Mind Flayers 10d10, giving us 55 points of damage once they successfully grapple a target. Gods forbid. And then we also have the Mind Blast, which is going to be our big AoE stun attack. And again, we're getting the intelligence bonus here for 31 points of damage. Now that's for 1 target, and because this is a DC save, we need to do it ×2 because we're looking for at least 2 failed saves. So multiply that ×2, giving us 62 points of damage. We can see here that right off the bat, our damage is primarily coming from the extract brain thing of just a bandsaw to the skull, like a doctor opening up a person's brain to do surgery. Except this time they're taking the brain out and keeping it for dinner or whatever other purposes. But in any event, let's go ahead and see what's going on here. We do have the stunned condition, but that's until the Mind Flayer's next turn. And since we get the stunned condition as well for the extract brain, I'm going to more or less leave it as it is. Although what I will do here is we'll come back to the hit points and we're going to modify this a little bit because technically it's only 2 of the 3 rounds of combat. So we'll round down and we will divide that by 2/3, or times it by 2/3 here. That way we can get the proper amount of technical effective hit points from stunning a creature or multiple creatures twice. We have all of our attacks in place. Let's go ahead and start working out what our attacks look like in each round of combat. So the first round, I would say definitely mind freak everyone and go in for that big first attack. From there, we are seeing in a shift down to a CR5 already. Round 2, with a stunned creature, we would rush in and grab with a tentacle attack. Now, this is also basically like a how-to play. I mean, it's very straightforward. We will go ahead and just do this anyways. We then shift down to a CR6, and then we will start working on extracting that brain because in theory, we have already grappled on for a stunned character, which makes it so much easier to grab them. Well, surprisingly enough, if you're able to mind freak at least two players and get 2 failed saves, or upwards of 4 with some passes, in theory, we're going to see a CR7 Mind Flayer, which is great to see. If we want to use the Dominate Monster, this makes things a little different. Let's go ahead and come back over here and look up Dominate Monster. So Dominate Monster is a 66 effective DPR spell, and this is why I didn't add this in. The problem is you dominate the monster, you can now get free lunch anytime you want, because the monster, or the player in this case, is going to be dominated. If we put in the 66 effective DPR here, we're going to see that we get 165 effective hit points. Our Mind Flayer only has 99 hit points, so we are effectively canceling out approximately its own hit points and damage, because we are taking a player out of the game. So this works a couple different ways. On the one hand, we have our players losing a player. Okay, so we're increasing the CR, or we're increasing the difficulty of this encounter dramatically by removing a player and they're out of the game. Now we've taken probably a hard encounter and turned it into a dangerous or deadly encounter, because now it's just 3 against a Mind Flayer when you were expecting 4 against a Mind Flayer. On the other hand, our Mind Flayer also is taking a ton, a shit ton less damage. Yeah, we'll say, okay, let's remove the stunned condition here. We will go ahead and remove the hit points here and just throw in 165 effective hit points, because now our Mind Flayer has control of the player. They are not doing any damage, and this is a concentration spell, or one that has to be broken one way or the other. In any event, the player is out of the game, out of combat, and now our CR7 monster has become a CR8 monster. I would say save Dominate Monster only in the case of this Mind Flayer is a big boss. This is a boss for an encounter. This is like the overarching quest line for your players that have been working towards something, and this is a mini BBEG. And this is how it breaks if you use the Dominate spell on a player. Don't do that. Don't. It makes the game less fun. The player that gets knocked out of the game is sitting there doing nothing, and now they're going to scroll on their phone, they're going to be distracted, they're not going to be paying attention. Don't use this on your players. Okay? Please, don't. Moving on, we have Detect Thoughts. They basically can't be surprised. They always know that there's someone coming, because they're always going to be checking Detect Thoughts. And then Plane Shift, like I said before, that's their get out of jail free card. That's their whoops, time to go. You know, the meme of switching buttons, eat brains or save yourself. And the captain's like sweating trying to figure out which button to press, except we can switch the captain's face with a Mind Flayer. There you go. So without Dominate Monster, let's move everything back. And we do this chain of Mind Blast, Tentacle, Extract Brain. We have ourselves a CR7 Mind Flayer. Now there's one more caveat. Let's say we don't use Mind Blast, or there's no reason to use it because the players are spread out. Here's another example. This is if the Mind Blast has a cone to use it on for at least 2 to 4 players. If we don't have that, then let's say we have first round is going to be the Tentacle, we get ourselves a Brain to feed on, and then we do 2 rounds of Extract Brain. So we will just go ahead and drop this in, and now we have a CR6 Mind Flayer. Again, we have some things here where the encounter is really dependent on Mind Blast. Be aware of that. Do your best to get that out right off the bat, because it does have a 60-foot cone, a reach of cone, so that's a decent size. That is most battle maps, and pretty much where any encounters are at, unless you're in Theater of the Mind. So let's go back to our last example here of what's going on. So we have my gripe of magic resistance here, and this again only works if your players are casting spells that require a save. That's only 1/3 of the type of damage. We have all melee physical damage. We have all magical direct damage like fire bolts and the items like that. And then we have spells like Cone of Cold, Fireball, Burning Hands. These are saves. So in theory, we have 3 different types of damages. So let's go ahead and say our players don't use saves all that much, and they're just using direct damage spells and attacks. We get rid of that, and we're back to a CR6 Mind Flayer. In actuality, our Mind Flayer is probably closer to a CR6, depending on your composition. If your players have a lot of save spells, fireballs, lightning bolts, cones of cold, whatever, burning hands, then yes, we will have a CR7 Mind Flayer. If they don't, then our Mind Flayer is a little easier to kill. Again, this is my complaint with magic resistance and resistance immunities in the first place. It bloats the creatures. If we don't use things like this, then we get a more accurate monster. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Want to go beyond the videos and join the discussion? Become a YouTube member or Patreon supporter today. You'll get to hang out in our private Discord, get exclusive videos, and even vote on future content. Click the link in the description to get started.